Ciao, and welcome to the Immersion Travel Podcast. We don't just visit Italy, we experience it. I'm Katerina Ferrara, travel author and your host. And today we're going to be talking about Piedmont and specifically the town of Turin. My husband and I have spent time in Turin and the wider region of Piedmont, and I will say right away, Turin surprised us in the very best way. From the moment we arrived, the city felt elegant, calm, and quietly confident. In fact, there were moments when I felt it was almost French, especially in architecture, the symmetry of the streets, the beauty of the piazzas, the long arcaded walkways, grand squares, and the orderly layout of Turin give it a distinctly European capital feel that is very different from what many travelers expect in Italy. What struck us most was how clean and uncrowded the city felt. There were not many tourists, which honestly feels like a shame because Turin is genuinely gorgeous. This is a city that was once the first capital of unified Italy, and you can feel that legacy everywhere you walk. One of the things that made our stay especially easy was logistics. We flew into and out of Turin's airport, which was a calm, efficient way to arrive. That alone makes Turin an excellent entry point for northern Italy, whether you're staying in the city or using it as a base to explore the region. Turin's story begins long before Italy existed as a unified nation. The Romans founded Augusta Turinorium in the 1st century BC, laying out the city on a strict grid that still defines the historic center today. As we walked near Via Garibaldi, it was striking to realize we were following the same lines as the ancient Roman military camp. The order of the city is not accidental, it's embedded. By the late Middle Ages and Renaissance, Turin rose to prominence as the seat of the House of Savoy, one of Europe's most powerful ruling families. When the Savoys made Turin their capital in 1563, the city was transformed almost overnight. Architects redesigned it as a modern capital with palaces, ceremonial avenues, and harmonious piazzas meant to project authority and refinement. It later became the capital of unified Italy in 1861, a short-lived but deeply symbolic role. Even though the capital soon moved to Florence and then Rome, Turin never lost its sense of identity. You feel it in the city's reserved elegance, its intellectual tone, and its confidence. Piedmont, Italy's northern powerhouse. Turin is inseparable from Piedmont, called Piemonte in Italian, a region whose name means at the foot of the mountains. The Alps rise dramatically to the north and west, shaping the climate, the cuisine, and even the mindset of the region. Piedmont has long been known for pragmatism and ambition. Its rulers were diplomats and strategists. Its people developed a reputation for precision, innovation, and discipline. Those qualities later fueled the Industrial Revolution, which Turin emerged as Italy's manufacturing engine. In the early 20th century, Turin became synonymous with Italian industry thanks to Fiat. The city's skyline, workforce, and identity were reshaped by factories, engineers, and forward-thinking design. One of the most fascinating symbols of this era is the Lingotto factory, with its rooftop test track where newly built cars once raced beneath the open sky. What makes Turin different from many industrial cities across Europe is that it never leaned heavily into tourism to reinvent itself. Even today, it feels quietly industrious and deeply capable. There's no flash here, just confidence. Wine, land, and cultural prestige. While Turin powered Italy's factories, the surrounding Piemontese hills cultivated something equally powerful: wine. The region is home to legendary wines such as Barolo, Barbaresco, often described as the royalty of Italian wine. At the heart of this landscape is Alba, synonymous with truffles and refined dining. Nearby Bra played a pivotal role in launching the slow food movement. Further east lies Asti, known for its Asti Spumanti and historic palazzi, and Alessandria anchors the plains with military and commercial history. What to see in Turin? Grand architecture, sacred treasures, and chocolate legends. Turin is a city best experienced on foot, where monumental sites, intimate cafes, and culinary traditions unfold naturally as you move through its elegant historic core. What makes Turin special is not just what you see, but how everything connects. Royal palaces lead to arcaded streets, churches onto open, quiet piazzas, historic cafes sit steps from world-class monuments. The first we'll discuss is the Mole Antonelliana. This is the symbol of Turin. I debated whether to put the Mole Antonelliana first or last on my list of sites to recommend. This was the first site we visited when we arrived in Turin, and it gives you incredible views of the city. But we didn't know the city very well at that point, so I debated whether we should have gone up at the end of our visit. Either way, it's an important, iconic, and unique landmark, so we'll start our virtual tour here. No image defines Turin more clearly than this building. Originally conceived as a 19th century synagogue, the building's soaring height and distinctive dome transformed it into the city's most recognizable symbol. Today it houses the National Cinema Museum, an inspired choice for a city that values both innovation and storytelling. You'll ride the glass elevator up to the top for sweeping views across Turin's rooftops to the Alps beyond. It's one of the few places where you can truly grasp Piedmont's geography, with mountains rising like a protective wall around the city. Each November, this connection becomes even clearer during the Torino Film Festival, founded in 1982. The festival is one of Italy's most respected celebrations of cinema, known for its focus on independent films, emerging directors, and thoughtful storytelling. During the festival, screenings take place throughout the city, but the Mole stands as the heart of the event. The festival reflects Turin's personality perfectly: serious, creative, and quietly confident. Films are discussed in cafés, debuted in theaters, and absorbed slowly, much like the city itself. Our second stop will be Piazza Castello. At the very center of Turin's historic and symbolic life lies Piazza Castello, a vast, dignified square that has served for centuries as a stage for power, ceremony, and public life. This isn't a casual piazza. From the moment you step into it, you sense it was designed to impress, to impose order, and to communicate authority. Every surrounding building plays a role in telling the story of Turin as a capital city. Here is where the House of Savoy made its presence unmistakably clear. Military parades, royal processions, diplomatic arrivals, and public celebrations unfolded here, carefully choreographed to reinforce the dynasty's legitimacy and ambition. Unlike the lively, chaotic squares of southern Italy, Piazza Castello reflects Piedmont's character: disciplined, elegant, and quietly powerful. As you step into Piazza Castello, you're not only standing in the heart of Turin, but a very important piazza as it relates to festivals and celebrating. This happens most vividly during the Festa di San Giovanni, or the Feast of St. John, held each year on June 24th in honor of St. John the Baptist, Turin's patron saint. For centuries, this feast day marked the most important civic and religious celebration of the year. When the House of Savoy ruled Turin, San Giovanni was a moment when political authority, religious devotion, and public identity converged. Today, Piazza Castello and the surrounding streets fill with concerts, cultural events, and crowds gathering as night falls. The celebration culminates with fireworks over the Po River, a tradition that locals plan their year-round. Watching the city come together here gives meaning to everything you see during the day: the palaces, the symmetry, and all of the celebrations. Next, let's talk about the Palazzo Reale di Torino, the former royal residence and political heart of Savoy rule. From the outside, the palace is restrained and symmetrical, almost austere. The understatement is deliberate. Inside, however, the story changes dramatically. We purchased tickets in advance and spent a full afternoon exploring the palace. Its interiors reveal a world of opulence designed to rival Europe's greatest courts. Grand staircases rise toward gilded salons. Throne rooms shimmer with gold leaf and mirrors. State apartments were crafted to impress foreign ambassadors and visiting monarchs, reinforcing Turin as a serious European power rather than a provincial city. The palace complex also includes the Royal Armory, one of the richest collections of arms and armor in Europe, further underscoring the Savoy's military strength. A visit here explains much about Turin's personality. The Palazzo Madama is just a few steps away and is one of Turin's most fascinating structures. At first glance, its elegant Baroque facade suggests a noble 18th century palace. Walk around it, however, and you'll see medieval towers suddenly emerge, revealing a far older origin. Palazzo Madama demonstrates the timeline of Turin itself. It began as a Roman gate. It was transformed into a medieval fortress. Then it later became a royal residence for Savoy princesses, known as the Madamas Reali, therefore the name Palazzo Madama. Today it houses the Civic Museum of Ancient Art, but even without entering, the building is visually fascinating and summarizes centuries of political, military, and artistic evolution. We can't talk about Turin without talking about its cathedral. A short walk from the Piazza Castello brings you to the Duomo di San Giovanni Battista, St. John the Baptist. Turin's cathedral, built in the late 15th centuries, its white marble facade reflects Renaissance ideals of harmony and balance. The cathedral is world-renowned as the home of the Shroud of Turin, one of Christianity's most studied and debated relics. Believed by many to be the burial cloth of Christ, the shroud has drawn pilgrims, scientists, and skeptics alike for centuries. While it is displayed only during rare public exhibitions, there is a copy of it that you can see in the cathedral, and its presence defines the spiritual gravity of the cathedral year-round. Even when the shroud is not visible, the Duomo invites stillness. The atmosphere inside feels deliberately restrained, encouraging reflection rather than spectacle. After the scale and authority of Piazza Castello, the cathedral offers a moment of inward focus, reminding visitors that Turin's identity has always balanced between political power and religious tradition. Together, Piazza Castello and the royal palaces, as well as the cathedral, form the center of historic Turin, where ambition met faith, where dynasty shaped the city, and where Turin earned its lasting reputation as Italy's most regal and compelling destination. Turin's chocolate legacy. Turin's reputation as Italy's chocolate capital is rooted in both innovation and necessity. During the Napoleonic era, cocoa shortages led chocolatiers to stretch chocolate with finely ground hazelnuts from the Langhe Hills. The result was Gianduja, a smooth, aromatic chocolate that became a Piedmontese signature. From this tradition came Giandujotti, cremini, and a culture of chocolate craftsmanship that still defines the city today. Just steps from Piazza Castello, inside the elegant Galleria Subalpina, sits one of Turin's most historic cafés. Founded in 1873 by pastry chefs Ferdinando Baratti and Edoardo Milano, this Art Nouveau jewel was an official supplier to the Royal House of Savoy. It is here that the Cremino chocolate was perfected, a refined, layered confection that has become one of Piedmont's most beloved sweets. The interior alone makes this visit memorable. Marble counters, polished brass, nicely dressed waiters, and richly decorated stucco ceilings create a Belle Epoque atmosphere that feels both grand and intimate. Every detail reflects Turin's devotion to elegance and craftsmanship. And then there was the personal pool. Once we discovered Baratti and Milano, it became a daily ritual. We found ourselves returning again and again, drawn by the pastries, the chocolates, and the sheer pleasure of sitting inside such a beautiful place. Our only real frustration was timing. Some mornings we were ready far earlier than the cafe opened, standing nearby waiting for the doors to be unlocked. When a place becomes part of your daily rhythm while traveling, you know you've found something special. Whether you're there for the chocolates, cremini, or the elegant pastries, Baratti and Milano is not just a stop for sweets. It is an experience of Turin that I highly recommend. Next, we're going to talk about another experience, but first, the Consolata. As you move north in Turin's historic center, the atmosphere subtly shifts. The grand symmetry of the royal streets gives way to a more intimate, devotional space centered around the Santuario della Consolata, one of the city's most important and deeply loved churches. Its origins stretch back to early Christianity, built on the site of Roman-era structure and associated with the veneration of the Virgin Mary, La Consolata, the Comforter. According to tradition, miraculous image of Mary was rediscovered here in the 12th century, reigniting devotion that has never really faded. Over the centuries, the sanctuary has expanded and transformed, most notably in the Baroque period, under the direction of architect Guarino Guarini and later Filippo Juvara. What you see today is a richly layered interior where architecture, faith, and emotion merge. The space feels warm, enveloping, and alive with prayer. Inside, take time to notice the small chapels filled with ex-votos, offerings left by worshipers, and gratitude for answered prayers. The statue of the Madonna del Consolata, crowned and deeply revered, is the focal point of devotion. Locals stop in throughout the day, often briefly, lighting a candle or pausing in silence. This is a church that still lives, woven into daily life, and also reserved for great ceremonies. And just outside of that very important sanctuary stands a very important cafe, the Café Turin, Turin's oldest cafe, founded in 1763. Proximity is no coincidence. For centuries, worshippers stopped here after visiting the Consolata, turning devotion into ritual and ritual into tradition. This small, intimate cafe is the birthplace of the famous Turin, Turin's iconic drink. Served in a clear glass, Turin is a carefully layered combination of espresso, dense hot chocolate, and cream, or panna. It's meant to be enjoyed exactly as it arrives, without stirring, allowing each sip to shift naturally from bitter to sweet. Inside the cafe preserves a 19th century charm with wooden seats, marble tables, and a hushed, almost reverent atmosphere. Famous patrons have included King Umberto II, Queen Maria Jose. But what makes this place special is how unchanged it feels. We truly enjoyed sitting both inside and outside of this historic cafe. And once you've tried a Turin, you'll be going back because it's not something you find anywhere else. Next, let's talk a little bit about Turin's industrial past and the Lingotto factory. Once a symbol of Italian manufacturing power, this space now hosts the country's most important cultural events, the Salone Internazionale del Libro, a book fair, a book festival. It's the largest literary event in Italy and one of the most respected in Europe. Writers, publishers, journalists, and readers fill former factory halls, transforming the site of production into a forum of ideas. For visitors, attending even a part of the book fair gives you an insight about Turin culture. Next, I want to mention a spectacular royal palace called the Regia di Venaria Reale. It's not in the historic center. We took a car to get there. It's not far. It's just north of Turin's center. And it's one of Piedmont's most extraordinary royal sites. This immense palace was conceived in the 17th century as a pleasure residence and hunting lodge for the House of Savoy, and it was designed not simply as a palace, but a statement of absolute power. From the moment we arrived, the scale was breathtaking. The vast courtyards open toward the palace facade. Inside, monumental galleries unfold with light, symmetry, and theatrical fare. The Savoys intended the Venaria to rival Versailles, and in many ways it does. The architecture is bold and ceremonial, and it's also extremely elegant. The gardens are an essential part of the experience. Restored to their former glory, they stretch out behind the palace in formal lines with fountains and greenery that invite long, unhurried walks. We found the atmosphere surprisingly calm and uncrowded, which made it even feel more special. And then there was lunch. One of the unexpected highlights to our visit out of town was dining at the Michelin-starred restaurant within the Regia complex. Sitting down for a beautifully prepared meal after exploring the palace was an experience itself. The food was elegant and thoughtful, perfectly matched to the setting. And one other thing I'll mention is that when you go to the restaurant, you get access to parts of the palace that are not offered during the normal tour route. So it's a nice little surprise being on the second floor with beautiful views around the palace. Afterward, we walked through the town of Venaria Reale, and it added another layer of understanding. The town itself is lovely, orderly, and harmonious, clearly designed to support the palace and its court. You can imagine artisans, servants, guards, and officials once filling the streets, all orbiting around the needs of the Regia. Unlike many palace towns, it felt purely functional. This town has a beautiful charm, a coherence that really makes it worth exploring. For us, the visit to the Regia was one of the most rewarding and unexpected, memorable experiences of visiting Turin. I also want to mention one of the fascinating things about Turin is how it naturally connects you beyond Italy. This has always been a crossroads, shaped by alpine passes and international trade. That legacy still is alive today. You can take direct trains from Turin to France, most notably Paris. High-speed international services typically connect 5.5 hours traveling through the Alps. It's an experience. The landscape shifts dramatically as you move from northern Italy into France, making it a very scenic travel. Turin also connects by rail to Lyon, a city known for its cuisine, historic old town, and vibrant cultural life. Lyon, France, is often overlooked by first-time visitors, but it is one of the country's most rewarding destinations and pairs beautifully with a visit to Piedmont. Beyond Lyon, there are routes to southeastern France, making it easy to continue toward Provence or the French Riviera without ever boarding a plane. Turin's rail connections also reach Geneva and other parts of Switzerland, offering access to lakes, mountains, and cosmopolitan cities in just a few hours. This makes Turin an excellent base for travelers who want flexibility and variety without constantly packing and airport transfers. I also want to talk about some of the nearby cities. Turin is refined and fascinating on its own, but one of its greatest advantages is how easily it connects to the wider region of Piedmont. With a short train ride or drive, you can reach historic towns shaped by trade, wine, faith, and ambition. These are places that deepen your understanding for northern Italy and reward travelers who want more than a service-level sightseeing. We used Turin as a gateway to Lago Maggiore. We spent an extended time exploring the lake. We flew into Turin, stayed in the city, got adjusted, and then headed to Lago Maggiore. It turned out to be a perfect combination. Turin gave us culture, elegance, and history, and the lake offered a different rhythm, slower, greener, more natural. Lago Maggiore is about 120 kilometers from Turin, which is about 75 miles. By car, it takes you an hour and 30 minutes, depending on traffic. By train, the journey is easy. You can take a train from Turin to Stresa of Verbania, with travel times about an hour to an hour and 40 minutes. What makes this route especially appealing is how easy it is. You can move from a former royal capital, surrounded by arcades and palaces, to lakefront promenades with mountain views and ferry rides. We loved having Turin as our entry point. If Lago Maggiore is on your radar, I go much deeper into Lago Maggiore in my 5-part podcast series that's also on YouTube, where I explore the towns, the ferry routes, walking paths, histories, where to stay, where to eat. I also cover Lago Maggiore in my Ultimate Festival and Travel Guide Milan and Lombardy, because part of Lago Maggiore is in Lombardy. So Turin and Lago Maggiore go very well together. I'll also mention that we did some day trips, and our first day trip was to Asti. This is a city whose history stretches back to Roman times. Founded as Hasta, Asti became an important outpost along Roman trade routes that later flourished as a medieval banking and commercial power. During the Middle Ages, Asti rivaled much larger cities, and its skyline once bristled with towers built by wealthy families to display status and influence. Today, Asti is best known internationally for its Asti Spumante, but the city itself is far richer than its wine reputation suggests. As you walk through the historic center, you'll encounter Romanesque churches, Gothic palazzi, the remnants of medieval walls, the Cathedral of Santa Maria Assunta, one of the largest Gothics in Piedmont. It's a highlight, along with Piazza Alfieri, named for the city's most famous writer, Vittorio Alfieri. In Asti, history comes alive most vividly during the Palio di Asti, held each September. This is one of Italy's oldest documented horse races, even older than Siena's Palio. The entire city transforms as neighborhoods compete. Medieval banners hang from every building, and costumed processions fill the streets. This is a true statement of civic pride rooted in centuries of rivalry and tradition. Asti celebrates food and wine throughout the year, especially during the autumn season, when wine festivals and market events highlight local products and the region's deep agriculture identity. Asti is located about 55 kilometers east of Turin. Trains run frequently from Turin's Porta Nuova, and the journey takes under 1 hour. From Asti, France and the Riviera feel closer, with Nice being about 250 kilometers away, roughly a 3-hour drive. Our next trip was to Alba, one of Piedmont's most celebrated towns. Alba's history dates back to Roman times, when it was known as Alba Pompeia. Over the centuries, it became a strategic medieval stronghold and later the home of noble families whose towers still define the skyline. Alba is internationally famous for its white truffles, but its cultural and historical appeal runs deeper. The old town is compact and beautifully preserved, with medieval towers, elegant streets, and lively yet refined atmosphere. The Cathedral of San Lorenzo anchors the historic center, while museums and wine enotecas reflect Alba's deep connection to the surrounding Langhe Hills. Alba sits in the heart of the Barolo and Barbaresco wine regions, making it an ideal base for wine lovers. Even without a car, the town itself offers plenty to explore, from artisan shops to slow, memorable meals. In Alba, the calendar of events rotates around the land. The most famous event is the Fiera Internazionale di Tartufo Bianco d'Alba. That's the White Truffle International Festival, held from October through November. The world-renowned truffle fair draws chefs, food lovers, and travelers from around the globe. During the same period, Alba hosts the Palio degli Asini. This is a donkey palio that blends humor, history, and medieval pageantry. The town's streets fill with music, costumes, and celebrations that reflect Alba's long-standing relationship with its land and harvest cycles. Alba is about 60 kilometers south of Turin. Trains take about an hour and 15 minutes, and driving takes just over 1 hour. Bra is our next city, and we combined it on our trip with Alba because it's very close. It's a small town with outsized global influence. Historically, Bra developed as a local market and agricultural center, serving the surrounding farming communities. Its Baroque architecture reflects a period of prosperity and civic pride in the 17th and 18th centuries. The surrounding Langhe Hills are covered with hazelnut groves, and these trees have shaped the region's economy and identity for generations. The local Tonda Gentile variety is considered among the finest hazelnuts in the world, prized for their delicate flavor and round shape. In 1946, just down the road from Alba, Pietro Ferrara used these hazelnuts to create the chocolate hazelnut paste that would eventually become Nutella. His small pastry shop grew into Ferrero, the global confectionery company behind Nutella, Ferrero Rocher, Kinder, and Tic Tac. The company remains family-owned and headquartered in Alba, where the original factory still operates. The relationship between hazelnut orchards and one of the world's most recognized food brands is a point of local pride. Even as the company has expanded far beyond its Piedmontese origins, Bra is best known as the birthplace for the slow food movement, which began here in the 90s as a response to the regional culinary traditions. The historic center is pleasant, walkable, with highlights including the Church of Santa Chiara, the elegant piazzas that host markets and festivals. Bra also is famous for cheese, one of the world's most important food events, drawing producers and visitors from across the globe. Festivals in Bra feel less like spectacles and more like shared events. Bra is host to smaller seasonal food markets and religious celebrations that reflect its agricultural roots. Bra is about 50 kilometers south of Turin. Trains take approximately 1 hour, and driving is equally straightforward. Our last day trip was to Alessandria, a city founded in the 12th century as a symbol of resistance against imperial control. Named in honor of Pope Alexander III, Alessandria was strategically positioned at the crossroads of trade, connecting northern Italy, the Ligurian coast, and France. Unlike the wine towns of the Langhe, Alessandria has a more pragmatic and military character. The star attraction is the Citadel of Alessandria, one of Europe's best preserved 18th century fortresses. It has massive walls and a geometric design designed to speak to the city's historical role as a defensive stronghold. In Alessandria, festivals tend to be about civic identity. The city celebrates San Bodolino, its patron saint, each November with religious services, historical reenactments, and community events. Alessandria lies 90 kilometers southeast of Turin. It takes just over an hour on a train and about an hour and 15 minutes in the car. Here, you're positioned to head toward Genoa, Liguria, or southern France by car or train. One of the greatest advantages of traveling to Piedmont is its proximity to France, which I keep mentioning. Nice is about 3.5 hours away, and you can also get to Paris and Lyon on the train. Turin's key sites tell a story of power, devotion, creativity, and restraint. Royal palaces explain its political ambitions, churches reveal its spiritual depth, cafe and chocolate shops show how this is a city that doesn't rush to impress, but instead invites you to slow down, look closer, and savor the details. And I do recommend adding Turin to one of your Italy travels. And that's where we'll leave it today. I'm Katerina Ferrara. I'm available at Katerina@KaterinaFerrara.com, or you can ask me a question on my website, KaterinaFerrara.com, on my contact page. If you'd like to go deeper, you can find my books, travel guides, and blog at KaterinaFerrara.com, where I share itineraries, festivals, and practical tips. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow the podcast, leave a review, and share it with someone who loves Italy or dreams of going. Thank you for spending this time with me. Until next time, travel slowly, stay curious, and keep visiting Immersion Travel.